After the priesthood session for General Conference, October 2015. I had a few insights that I wanted to share with you. When I was listening to Uchtdorf speak, he was talking about divine priesthood and worthy holders. And he was asking, do we as priesthood holders, do we really practice what we preach? Do we walk the walk, or do we just talk the talk? Are we simply Sunday Christians, or are we really disciples of Jesus Christ? And this made me think a lot in regards to how we are not, in many cases, true, worthy members of the church and holders of the priesthood. And this is related to something that I like talking about, which is government and violence and coercion. We as priesthood holders, something that is that they teach us when we become converts, we're promised, we are taught, is that the priesthood is given to us, so we are worthy members if we obey the God's commandments, if we are disciples of Jesus and we follow his steps. And it says, for example, this chapter 13, Gospel Principles. What is the priesthood? The priesthood is the eternal power and authority of God. Through the priesthood, he created and governs the heavens and the earth. By this power, the universe is kept in perfect order. Through this power, he accomplishes his work and glory, which is to bring to pass the immortality and central life of man. Our Heavenly Father delegates his priesthood of power and authority to worthy male members of the church. The priesthood enables them to act in God's name for the salvation of human family. Through it, they can be authorized to preach the gospel, administer ordinances of salvation, and govern God's kingdom on earth. So, essentially, this is something divine that's given to us as a responsibility. I doubt that any priesthood holder can hold office in any organization that's a major contributor of violence, of force, and coercion, such as a government entity, any government sergeant, any military personnel, any police. Well, police officers, they are enforcers of an immoral entity, which is the government. So in a way, police officers are also possibly can fall into this category of not being worthy priesthood holders. And here, for example, it says, when Christ lived on earth, he chose his apostles and ordained them so that they could lead his church. He gave them the power and authority of the priesthood to act in his name. So when we have the priesthood, we're acting in his name. Christ wasn't an initiator of wars. He didn't force anyone to follow him. He wasn't an aggressor. He wasn't violent. He didn't tax people. He didn't tax his followers or force to extract wealth from them. Everything he did was voluntary. The discipleship that he had were voluntary. Everyone followed him was because they wanted to be part of him, his message, his church. No one was forced, unlike governments, which are forced to be part of this entity, and they extract from you wealth, money. If you don't pay them, you encounter threats of violence via letters, sent to your home, telling you to pay. If you don't pay, eventually, your properties and other assets are seized. And if you still don't comply, if it's a major violation of the tax code, then you're eventually imprisoned. And if you run away, if you escape, if you flee, if you resist arrest from officers, when they find you, they're going to beat you up, or just shoot you, or any other violence in order to capture you and take you to jail. So as you can see, this is this is the line, the process of how violence is institutionalized in the government. Okay, so as priesthood holders, I see that we cannot be supporters of any violent entity. So how do men properly use the priesthood? This again from the same manual which we're taught when we become converts. The priesthood should be used to bless the lives of our Heavenly Father's children here on earth. Priesthood holders should preside in love and kindness. They should not force their families and others to obey them. That applies especially to governors or anyone that holds any government role. The Lord has told us that the powers of the priesthood cannot be controlled except in righteousness. When we try to use the priesthood to gain wealth or fame or any other selfish purpose, such as political power, behold, the heavens withdraw themselves, and the Spirit of the Lord is grieved. When a man uses the priesthood by persuasion, by long suffering, by gentleness and meekness, and by love and fame, he can do many wonderful things for his family and others. He can baptize, confirm, and minister the sacrament when authorized by those who hold the keys or those ordinances. He can bless the sick. He can give priesthood blessings to his family members to encourage and protect them while they have special needs. He can also help other families with the ordinance and blessing with the Yeshua, etc. So, essentially, this is what I'm trying to apply to my life. This applies to me. Especially this message by Dieter F. Uchtdorf applies to my life, especially because I'm a priesthood holder. If I really want to follow Christ and be worthy of this priesthood that I have, then I have to really study, the words from our scriptures, from our manuals, from our words of prophets, and the messages that were given in conference like today. So that's what I wanted to share. We have to seek to become more like Christ, non-violence, non-force, non-coercion. Essentially, if you support government, any government that's a monopoly of force, violence, or coercion, then there's a contradiction there. You can't be a follower of Christ and a supporter of a violent entity. And I also end this video by saying that no clean thing can dwell with God. No unclean thing can dwell with God. So I imagine that if you support any government that initiates war against other countries, essentially you're violating one of the commandments of God, which is thou shalt not kill. That's a big one. You can't. If you want salvation for yourself, if you expect yourself to be exalted to the highest form of glory, then you really cannot do it by supporting violence of any kind. You might say that, I'm unpatriotic, or that I am a traitor of my fellow countrymen, but I say not. I say that I'm a loyal disciple of Christ. I wish to remove and extract all matters of violence from my life, any type of coercion, any type of force. I want to remove that from my life. So if I really want to be honest with this message, and this philosophy, I really have to put it to practice. So that's all I have. See you guys. Bye.